Today, we're excited to introduce you to Dan Manning, a former fighter pilot who's now helping founders share their stories in powerful ways. Dan served in the U.S. Air Force, flying fighter aircraft and even negotiating with Russian military officials during his time in uniform. Now, Dan helps founders, executives, and coaches get their ideas across clearly so they can be heard and remembered. Stay tuned to hear about Dan's journey and how he helps others communicate their vision effectively.
Welcome to the MilCom Founders Podcast, where we champion and celebrate military community business founders. In each episode, we will talk with a MilCom business founder to learn how they work through various obstacles and opportunities in business and in life. I'm your host, Rod Loches. Let's meet today's guest. Hey, today I'm excited to invite Dan Manning, an Air Force veteran, retired veteran from the Air Force, and also the founder of Build the Story. And Dan, welcome to the show, and I'd love to hear your story.
Thanks so much, Rod.
Just absolutely share a little bit about that. It'd be great.
Yeah. So I spent 25 years in the Air Force. So the first half of that time as a fighter pilot flying the A-10, the second half as a military diplomat. So near the end of my career, I led operational negotiations with the Russians in Syria for a year. I ran the hotline between our headquarters in Qatar and their headquarters in Syria. And then I retired from the Air Force in 2019. So coming up on just over 5 years ago. And
Wow.
I started a business.
Yeah, not that long ago.
No, it's pretty recent.
Yeah, and I remember meeting you just after you had gotten out. So it's how much the world has changed
No kidding.
in those 5-6 years. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow, I better not think about that. That's kind of crazy. So Dan, in your personal life, what are you passionate about? What do you like to do when you're not helping people write their stories, their businesses stories? What's passionate about? What do you like to do?
So truthfully, like helping people to communicate is something that I'm passionate about, right? I work a lot. Every entrepreneur does, right? Being an entrepreneur means that you get to pick which 16 hours a day you're working.
That's
and
right.
It is a lot of work. But I truly get energized when I work with people that I can help them to tell the stories that they need to unlock what it is that they're working on, right? People get so tightly focused on themselves and sort of the business that they're building, and they struggle to communicate that with customers, right? With the people that need to hear it. And when I can, even spending 30 minutes or a 1-hour session with someone and give them the tools that they need to be able to communicate, it genuinely does give me energy. It takes energy as well. So to refuel that energy, we moved to Alabama after I retired.
Yeah.
The cost of living here is a lot cheaper than it is in DC. So we were able to buy some land, and I take my dog out and I go on a walk and spend some time outside to recharge, so that when I show up, I'm ready to be on for the people that I serve.
Yeah, what kind of dog?
Rottweiler.
Rottweiler, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're passionate about that, and what do you? What's a challenge you've had to overcome personally in your life?
So I would say, one of the biggest ones actually came from my military service, right? I mentioned that I was the lead operational negotiator with the Russians for that year in Syria from 2016. It was the summer of 2016 to the summer of 2017. I was also a target engagement authority. So I would approve strikes, not strikes up on the front lines, but strikes much deeper into ISIS-controlled territory. And the time that I was there, I approved something like 768 strikes against ISIS targets, and then watched many of them happen on the giant screens, there in the KAOK. So, after I came back, I had a mentor, actually, he was a 3-star at the time, who asked me in the Pentagon food court. Like, we just happened to run into each other. We had been deployed at the same time. And he said, "Hey, have you been to go talk to somebody since you've been back?" I was like, "No, sir, I haven't, but I know I should." He's like, "Well, you should, because it worked. I did, and it helped me." Like, "Yes, sir, you're right." I made an appointment that day to go and start seeing a therapist. And I spent a lot of time in therapy just processing those memories and those experiences, and getting some control back over my mind and the some of those bad images that were playing. in my mind, and that, I mean, literally saved my life.
Yeah, absolutely. God bless you. And thank you for the service that you've given our country for so long. So what do you do to take care of yourself? I mean, therapy is wonderful, and but on a day-to-day basis, it's probably walking your Rottweiler. And what else helps you stay positive, stay healthy? Uh,
So it is a struggle. Like I'll be honest, right? Running a business, and especially a business that is growing and changing and adapting. And my wife, she has a fresh roasted coffee business, so we're both very busy in doing that work. But it's really making the choice to prioritize, like going outside and going for a walk and spending some time in nature, and just being outside and doing it, right? We can always, it's easy to say, I don't have time for that. But the truth is,
right.
do I prioritize that or do I not? Because I have as much time as anyone else. And really, I say, like, I feel tempted to say forcing myself to do it, but it's really not. It's like allowing myself to take that time to take care of myself and try to get better about what I'm eating and what I'm doing, and recognizing that the work that I do is creative work. And if I can't create from an empty well, I have to spend some time refueling myself so that I can produce something that's great for my clients.
Yeah, absolutely. That change is that comes from taking care of yourself is immeasurable. And I know that firsthand. I've lost 35 plus pounds in the past
Awesome.
18 months because the more I got around the veteran community, I saw all these men and women taking care of themselves. I'm like, why are they going to listen to me
Sure.
unless I
Right.
take care of myself?
Mhm.
And they inspired me to start taking care of myself, and it's been a fantastic uh, change for myself. It's
That's
been
awesome.
really cool. Yeah, thank you. So it's been neat. I can't wait to talk to you a little bit here about your
Yeah.
military experience,
Sure.
because fighter pilot to doing that with the Russians. Wow, that's going to be tough transition. I imagine, even just that. So, but taking a step back, why did you join the military?
So I grew up here in just outside of Birmingham, Alabama. My father was a welder. My mother was mostly a stay-at-home mom, but she did some like home party sales types of
Sure.
types of things. And they didn't have money for me to go to college. So if I did pretty well in school, and I knew that if I wanted to go to college, it was going to be because I was able to get some scholarships that would help me to do that. So I applied for some Air Force ROTC scholarships. I was pretty good at computers at the time, so I had a computer science major. I got some additional scholarships from the school that I went to, Samford University here in Birmingham, and was able to pay for college because the Air Force paid for it. So
Fantastic.
when I first entered, I expected, maybe I'll be in for the 4 years or whatever that was required. But I was fortunate to be able to earn a pilot slot and go to pilot training, and that was a longer amount of time, and I enjoyed what I was doing. So I ended up sticking it out for the whole career.
Fantastic. Dan, where's the accent?
So honestly, my family all has an accent. Everyone here has an accent. My wife has an accent, but I remember in first grade making the decision to not have an accent because I saw from
Are you kidding?
no, it's crazy. But I saw like I liked watching Dukes of Hazzard, for instance, growing up. But the people make very quick judgments about other people, and even at that really young age, like I recognized that people who spoke with a Southern accent were often like undervalued and dismissed. So I decided in first grade, like I'm not going to do that. So there's some words that I pronounce strangely because I say all the letters in the word just as a way to overcome that. But I never had one, and then living all over the world in the Air Force didn't hurt that non-accent having as well.
Yeah, well, you don't even have a Russian accent after speaking it for 10 years. So,
No, I can fake a Russian accent though.
отлично. Yeah,
Oh, how does that?
understood.
Yeah.
I know maybe 100 words, but that's about it. So in the military, you started out as an A-10 pilot. You earned that right and that privilege and responsibility. I got to ask, what was your, what do they call it, call sign?
Yeah. So Right after pilot training, I actually stayed and I was a T-37 instructor. So T-37's a side-by-side jet trainer. So I graduated, I went through pilot instructor training, and then I started teaching. I'm a first assignment instructor pilot is what the Air Force called them. So I taught for about 3 years, about 1,000 hours in the T-37, teaching brand new pilots how to fly from like they're literally their very first sortie to at the end of that training program, they're flying solo 3 feet away in formation. It's a really rapid progression that they make.
Wow.
And then I went to the A-10, but my call sign was Beef. In the fighter pilot community, the you have the naming, and people tell stories, but the stories only have to be 10% true. But if they're funny, we'll waive the 10%. And the story that was told was completely not true and completely offensive. But the name that came out of it was Beef. And once you fly with that call sign in combat, it's yours forever. It can never be changed. So there was a large time in my life when more people in the world knew me as Beef than knew me as Dan. But I think now we're back to the Dan is the more common name that people know me as.
Got it. Okay. I know. I think isn't there kind of a tradition? I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Like they usually pilots only share their name typically, their call sign when you're getting a beer bought for them or something like this.
So people have different rules for their name. My son actually just turned 18. He joined the Army actually when he was 17. In fact, today should be his first airborne jump. He might literally be in the air right now. But we told him when he turned 18, I would tell him the story. So when he was home for Christmas, I told him the story and shared some of the fighter pilot stories with him then.
Understood. Wow, I went through airborne school just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So, but that's amazing, and congratulations on his military service as well. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Amazing. So when you're in the military, you learn so much, Dan. I know you shared a story that was transformational for you in your flight. I think you were training somebody. You had a story that helped you tell stories. That helped you. Remember that?
So there's a couple, right? But there's one story that I talk about where the power of story really became undeniable to me. And I was a very young instructor pilot. I had maybe less than 100 hours of instructor time. And we're flying out of Wichita Falls, Texas, at Shepherd Air Force Base. And if you know anything about Texas, you know they do things big. And one of the things they do big is thunderstorms. And there was a massive thunderstorm that had built up between where we were flying and home. And there's no way that we're going to fly our little airplane, into that thunderstorm. So we're deviating, further and further to the west to get away from it. But eventually we've gone so far to the west that if we don't turn and point towards home, we're not going to have the fuel to make it there. So I told my student, look, we're going to stay away from the big, ugly black cloud, but those white, puffy clouds that are next to it, we'll just fly through the edge of that one. Because we know if it gets bumpy, it's clear to the west, we can turn left and we'll be back into clear space. So we flew into it, and right away it got intensely bumpy. So we banked 90 degrees to the left, and I have control of the aircraft, or I say that I have control of the aircraft. I'm trying to get back to level flight, but when I do, we bank 90 degrees in the other direction. And every time we do it, the nose is falling steeper and steeper. So the airspeed is picking up. There's a sheet of ice that forms on the windscreen and then breaks off, and instantly another one forms back in its place. There's a light that indicates when your engine intakes are filling with ice, and that light was glowing bright orange. And even through my earplugs and my helmet and the canopy, I could hear the wind noise getting louder and louder outside. I was doing everything that I could think of to recover, but nothing was working. But then I remembered something. And what I remembered was a story a friend had told me just a few weeks prior when he was flying off the coast of Florida. And his airplane was struck by lightning. His instruments were messed up. And he told me that he was scared. He wasn't sure what to do, but he took a deep breath. He picked an altitude where if he were not in control of the airplane, he would eject. And then he just worked the problem until he got there. So I did the same thing. I took a breath. I actually turned our transponder on, so if we ejected, they would know where to start looking for us. And picked an altitude where we would eject if I wasn't back in control, and then started working it out. about 2,000 feet prior to that altitude, we popped out of the bottom of the cloud, and now I didn't need the instruments. I could look around and I could use the horizon to get back to back to level flight. Fort Hood was right off the nose. Air traffic control asked if I'd like to land there. I said yes. The first time in history anyone has been happy to arrive at Fort Hood.
That's right.
But we taxied in, shut down, decided we would try it another day. But I realized that the thing that broke through when I was in that situation wasn't something that I read. It wasn't a sortie that I had flown. It wasn't something an instructor had taught me. It wasn't from a simulator. It was a story. It was one person sharing their experience, and I was able to add it to my bag of tricks. And humans have been doing this for 100,000 years. Like, one person learns something, they share it with someone else, and the way that we do that is through story and through storytelling.
Absolutely. It's interesting. You helped me write my first story that changed my business, helped me redirect and gain altitude in my business. Let's say,
awesome.
Let's talk about, and really that we needed to be focused on the founders and how do we help those founders succeed. And I look forward to coming back to you here soon and doing that again for another revision. Great. And or other things. And it's interesting, Dan, because I think I probably already shared this in another story, but the podcast. But what I found was 10 years ago, literally almost to the day, sitting in the ICU down Tampa, Florida on a business trip, had to call my daughters, tell them goodbye because I didn't think I was going to make it home. And during those 2 weeks in the ICU, what I found to be very powerful was was to become a story seeker, was to hear the stories, to pull the stories out of people. And that's what I want to become fantastic at, because when I hear people's stories, they are energizing, they are resilient, they are courageous. And everybody has their story, but to get people to share that story can be not tricky, it can be hard. And I found that I have to ask people 1, 2, or 3 times before they'll tell me their real story.
Oh yeah.
And one of the stories that a ICU nurse shared with me was all inspiring about how she was living on the streets. Father found her. She said, he says, hey, daughter, I'm going to die. I have cancer. It'll be just months. And she says, okay, well, do you have any money? He says, I love you. I'll see you later. Take care. And she realized a week later she'd been sober. So she went and talked to her dad. And she says, wait a minute, I'm pretty good at this. Dad says, you can stop by every day and help me, but you can't live here because I don't trust you. I love you, but I don't trust you. And she showed up for the next 6 months, helped him pass away from cancer, and realized, oh my gosh, I've been sober. I was very good at helping my dad on his last journey. Sorry, I still get choked up.
Yeah, no.
And she talked about change. She changed. She said, I was sober. I realized I was good at it. So she went and became a janitor at the hospital. And she worked up over years to become an ICU nurse. So just amazing, the power of those stories. And for me to seek those stories out from people. And that's part of why I'm doing the podcast is to give people another platform, another way to share their stories, how they've overcome things, and to champion and celebrate those wonderful founders. It's just inspiring to me. So it's so much part of why I want to do it. And you've been part of that journey to help us figure that out. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that story as well, right? As a storyteller, people come to me and give me the privilege of asking them repeated, deep and probing questions about the most important and most sensitive areas of their life.
Yeah.
And it gives me this really interesting insight into seeing the patterns and ways that we're all the same, right? The story of this nurse is the story of transformation, of it's no matter where you are, it is not too late to make this transformation to become the person you want to be. Yeah. And simply sharing that story with me and with the rest of your audience gives them, I say, an N of one. Here is one example of a person that transformed their lives. And if that's true for them, there's no reason it can't be true for you as well. And we get to learn from someone else's story, and we get to learn from their experience without having to suffer their pain. It's a privilege and a gift.
Yeah, it sure is. So thank you for helping me learn how to do that and do this better. That's for sure. So Dan, you've started the business, build the story. I think I kind of understand what actually, when we first met 5 or 6 years ago, this wasn't your original
It wasn't.
concept. So tell me about what happened on that journey.
Yeah. So my first idea when I was getting ready to retire is that I would start a business teaching creative thinking, critical thinking, and communication skills. And I would help primarily startup founders to be able to solve problems in their business. So I was leading workshops about creativity. I had almost like a live podcast type thing that I would do, helping people understand more about critical thinking and how to overcome some of their thinking biases. We had some really good jobs lined up, but then COVID happened. There was a big change for so many people. So there was no more corporate training. There was no more traveling out and teaching people. I started teaching more over Zoom. My curriculum eventually got adopted by James Madison University as a certificate program that they were doing there as well. But it took me probably longer than it should have. But I eventually realized that nobody ever says, you know what I need? I need a Russian-speaking fighter pilot who's pretty good at creativity, who could come and teach me how to think. It's just not something that people ever think of. So I never would come to mind for people, even the people that I could help or that I felt like I could help. I never came to mind for people at the time that they could hire me. So I persisted for a while, and I wasn't making any money. I'd take a look at my own like personal balance sheet and see like we got a lot of effort going out, a lot of money going out, but nothing coming back in. So about just over 3 years ago, in fact, maybe almost exactly 3 years ago, I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on one thing. And that one thing originally I said was going to be presentation skills. I had given thousands of presentations, in the Air Force, and I was pretty good at doing that. And storytelling is a piece of giving effective presentations. So I did a workshop and on storytelling. And at the end of it, one of the guys in the workshop, a startup founder, said, hey, can I just hire you to help me tell my business story to investors? Like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. He said, well, how much would you charge? I said, $50. He said, okay, let's do it. So, so I did the story with him. I interviewed him. I asked, these, questions. I was able to put together the pieces so that he could get clarity on what it was that he was talking about. A week later, he texted me and said that he used that story for the first time. And for the first time, people actually understood what it was he was talking about. But also, he got his biggest check ever. He turned that $50 into $10,000 in a week. I'm like, all right, well, one, I need to raise my prices. And two, this is a thing. Like, it is something that is valuable. And if I can do that for more people, one, they'll think of me because people know when they're not being heard. People know when they're not being understood. And for a startup founder, if you're not heard, understood, trusted, and remembered, you got nothing. You need all of those to come to mind for people, whether it's getting investment or getting sales.
That's right. Absolutely. And so tell me about your business today. Congratulations. Some people call that the pivot. I think you call it the change that you did for yourself and your business.
Yeah.
And think about that all the people you've helped since you've made that pivot. Amazing. You could have said it, much like your flight earlier that you shared with us. How do you make that decision? It's time to change. That's
yeah. Most of the time, people don't change while they still have the option to keep doing the old thing. Right? Typically, this status quo bias holds us where we are, even if it's not exactly what we want, even if it's not turning out the way that we anticipated. We have tons of sunk personal cost, sunk financial cost, and we say, well, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep gutting it out. And I did that for a while, but I wasn't seeing the signs that it was turning around. And I had given myself a certain amount of time to build a business and then start getting some traction or go get a real job, right? Go work somewhere else.
The floor that you talked about in your other story was, okay, here's the certain amount of time we have left.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy, actually. I'm going to work on that. So I'm like, all right, I'll give myself one more year to turn this around and to do something. But once I moved into storytelling, right, I've got a skill of being able to do that, but also a lot of what I do is just the science of storytelling and the structure of storytelling and asking good questions and then building it back together for people. People started hiring me. And since then, I've done about 800 stories
Wow.
for founders, for executives, for even for a trauma surgeon getting into a fellowship. And she didn't even attend one of my workshops. Her partner had attended one of my workshops, and she had applied for I think 3 years or something, didn't get a single interview. And he said, "Well, look, Dan teaches this. Let's see if we can just rearrange your purpose statement on your fellowship application in the story form, and let's see what happens." She got something like 7 offers. Her experience didn't change. Only the story changed. It unlocked this understanding in the audience that she was trying to reach, and now she has the fellowship that she wanted. She had her choice of fellowships to go to. It is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And just think how many people she's going to be able to help
Oh, yeah.
now because she learned how to tell her story. I
Yes.
mean, that's amazing. And you have 800 people that have that opportunity because you've been able to meet them.
Well,
That's
800
something.
stories. So
Yeah.
some people do more than one.
That's right.
Some people, I've had a couple clients who've done like 50 with them, like for their LinkedIn content. People in like very niche industries. One is she's a president of a construction company working in oil and gas and utilities. There's a very thin audience that she's trying to reach, but it's effective. Like she's gotten many contracts and high dollar value contracts from just telling these stories to this specific niche that demonstrates her ability and what she's her values and what she's good at.
Mm-hmm. So what is your revenue model for your business? It's first of all, it's an amazing mission that you have, and 800, it'll become 8,000 over time that you help. But what's your business model? How do you succeed? How do you measure success?
So I think maybe those are two different questions.
Yeah, they are. Sorry.
No, it's good. No, but the business model is I make money a couple of ways. Like one way, I do have a community that people join, and it's essentially a storytelling apprenticeship program. And it's not only a course, but it's genuinely a community. People have relationships outside of it. People have conversations that are going even when I'm not present. I also do some live teaching, and as the students get more advanced, especially if they're trying to do like what I do, helping to tell other people's stories, I'll bring them with me to client meetings. I will get pro bono clients that we can work together so they can get some experience and they have some stories that they can tell themselves. And then I have just done for you services where I tell stories for people. So a startup founder who's building a pitch, they'll come to me and I'll build out their entire pitch. TED Talks. Sometimes it's just like a 3-minute story that people are telling their customers that just encapsulates their business and they're able to deliver that. Other times people come to me for LinkedIn content. And then I do in-person workshops, those types of engagements as well. And then separately, I'm also a startup advisor, right? I'm a Techstars advisor, Generator, Patriot Bootcamp, Gust. And for some of those companies, I have advisor shares inside their company. I'm also part of an angel group, so I'm able to invest in some of the companies that I'm working with. And if you're talking about like long term, if I'm going to make a lot of money, it's going to be through those types of investments and meeting and working with founders at very early stages in their companies and helping them to be successful.
Yeah, because you typically charge, I think, what is it? I won't. Let me ask you, what do you typically charge instead of me guessing at this time?
So I've actually just raised my my prices. So for like a 3 to 5 minute story, it's just under $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
For a 5-minute startup pitch, I'm doing those right now for about $1,500.
Got it. Still very reasonable.
Yeah.
Except for me. I mean, if I came back, it wouldn't be that much. But no, I'm kidding.
It would, no. I mean, one thing that I try to do is, clients who were early clients, with me when I didn't have 800 stories, when I didn't have, this proof that I could show that the stuff works, I tend to, give them some grandfathered pricing so that they can continue to benefit. Well, they're kind to me, right? They helped me to build my business. But I would also, just to follow up on that, like, I would not say that like the business model is how I define success. I define success honestly by helping good people to do great things, right? Helping good people to do the work that they do. And I've done tons of free or pro bono stories for people who are very early in their entrepreneur career, and they just need some help. Like some help getting clarity, just getting out of their own minds and being able to communicate to people in a way that they understand. And people have turned those free stories into millions of dollars worth of investment in their startups, and they are achieving their mission. And I love, being a part of helping good people to do great things.
That's awesome. So what's your end game for your business? What's the end game look like for you?
That's a great question. And I'm open for what that end game might be. I want to continue doing work that gives me energy, right? Work that I feel excited to do, and I feel excited to deliver, and excited to see those results. Part of moving to Alabama and coming to a lower cost of living place, while I have a military retirement, gave my wife and I some room to take more risks and to have more space and to do more experiments to find out what might work for us. Yep. I do want to create another community that's specifically for story stage founders. That is, founders who are very, very early, who need to do more experimentation, who need to, I say that for them, their story is the most valuable asset their business has, because it is that asset that's going to either get them investment, going to get them sales, going to allow them to attract a co-founder or to build a team, and to help them to go from essentially where they have committed to, all right, I'm going to turn this into a business, until they have a steady pipeline of customers, and have that be a paid community that we can work through as well. I think that's going to be really beneficial, and then just keep working with clients who have more and more reach, and helping them to do what they want to do. Yeah.
So what's a project you're working on right now within the business, your business?
Yeah.
That's got you excited or like, what the heck? What's something to work on that excites you at the moment?
So two things. One is I just today, just a couple hours ago, finished up a workshop with Chris Doe's community. So Chris Doe is a graphic designer, but he sort of pivoted his mission from doing graphic design to his goal is to teach 1 billion people, right? To help 1 billion people learn to build a business. So he mostly works with creative entrepreneurs, helping them to create the businesses that they want to have. He's got a really large following on YouTube and a lot of places, and he's a great teacher. And today, I taught inside his community to the people that are following him, and it was a great honor to do that. And then I'm also just yesterday, I started working with a founder who has a pitch competition coming up next week, actually. So it's kind of a rush to get it done, but he'll be able to deliver a pitch, and I think it's going to unlock some real investment that lets him finally be able to build the thing that he's been working on for a couple of years. And communicating that idea to this new group of people is going to be the thing that unlocks that opportunity for him.
That's great. You had a great military career, but how did you, taking a step back, how did you go from being a fighter pilot to engaging the Russians in diplomatic efforts or military liaison? How did that happen?
So, so I was a T-37 pilot, then I was an A-10 pilot. I was an A-10 instructor as well back at the schoolhouse at Davis-Monthan. But on my second assignment in Germany, I was working at the headquarters, and I would go and fly with the A-10 squadron there, every couple of weeks or so. But the weather in Germany is not the best. And the aircraft were also going through a major renovation, so there weren't as many airplanes up there as they would typically have. And after 1 year of flying, I looked back at my records that I'd only flown 25 times. And most of those sorties weren't like operational style sorties. They were just flying through the weather, mostly giving check rides to other students. And I wasn't as good as I felt like I needed to be a proficient fighter pilot. Wow. And if you're not a proficient fighter pilot, you're not going to live long. Right. So I had always had an interest in international relations. I actually got my master's degree in international relations. So I applied to be an attaché. So I became the defense attaché to Kyrgyzstan. And part of that was spending a year learning Russian and then going to attaché training. We lived in Kyrgyzstan for 2 years and then came back to the Pentagon. And in fact, when I got selected I was a speechwriter. And then when I got selected for 06, they said, your assignment's going to be at Shaw Air Force Base. in Sumter, South Carolina.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, the needs of the Air Force and the needs of family beef do not intersect in Sumter, South Carolina. So that's the time for me to go. I said, but the Russians had just moved into Syria. And I said, I know that at the KAOC, the Combined Air Operations Center, I know that there are no Russian-speaking fighter pilots that are there. There's nobody there that understands the Russians and the way that they think, the way that I do. If that position were available, I'd be glad to do a year remote to do that. 2 days later, I got a call from the Air Force saying, hey, you got a new assignment. You're going to the KAOC. I'm like, all right, good.
Wow.
And then part of that job was running the hotline, with the Russians. And when I started, we had scheduled calls, I think 2 scheduled calls each week. And sometimes we would make the call just to make sure the phone still worked.
Sure.
By the end, we were talking 20 times a day because our forces were so close together. And the risk of something awful happening was within a few hundred meters often.
Yeah, and eventually it did. The I would imagine that even the power of story came into play there, being able to engage and share, per se, short stories, whatever the case is, with the opposing forces to help them understand the situations. The ability to communicate clearly had to be paramount.
Yes, it is, but it's in a slightly different way than typically we think about stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So stories are absolutely the things that we tell, but also we live our lives based on the stories that we have in our mind. Those stories that we have in our mind will reshape information into the shape of those stories. They become a heuristic for the way that we think. So like one of the stories that I would lean on with the Russians is that you are military professionals. I'm a military professional. We're both here doing what our countries have asked us to do, and we're both trying to do it in the best way that we know how. And I could use that story that was essentially equivalent, and I would reinforce that story in our conversations as well, so that they would trust that what I was saying was I could follow up on. And I could learn to trust them as well. If they said that they would do something, I was very careful to not ask them to do things that I didn't think that they could follow up on. But if they committed to doing it, they would do it. I wouldn't say that I trusted them, but I would believe that they would follow up on what they said because we were both adhering to this story that we're military professionals doing our military job.
Wow. And you knew your audience. Wow. That's
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to know the audience and know their background. Like you said, you didn't know just their language. I imagine you knew a little bit of their culture and
Sure.
how they think, like you said, and stuff like that. Absolutely. So your military experience, how have you used that? What are some things you've used from your military experience to help you build your business? What are some nuggets, some concepts, ideas that you rely on a lot? You want to get the military?
Yeah, I mean, probably there's a few very practical ones. I spent most of my time in the military teaching something, right? I was a T-37 instructor. I was an A-10 instructor. So learning to teach and learning, especially like on a one-on-one basis for something that is often very high stakes and very important, taught me to communicate in ways that are very, very direct and concise and easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also in business when you're communicating with someone else, whether it's online or face-to-face or on this type of interview, the more clear, direct, and concise you can be, the more likely your message is to be heard. So doing that over and over for years and years in the Air Force helped to build that habit in me as well. But also just simply learning like adaptability. And I've heard this on some of your previous podcasts as well.
Yeah.
Where you walk into a new situation. Like I had never negotiated with the Russians before. I had never been a target engagement authority before. There's no real class on how to do that. There's some basic things that but most of it is like immerse yourself in it and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And having the confidence to be able to step in, whether it's working with a client on their business, maybe a business that I have no personal experience in, but being able to immerse myself in it, ask them the questions and get to that understanding and then translate it into something other people can understand is really powerful for people and unlocks lots of opportunities. And that I can trace a direct line back to my time in the Air Force and learning those skills.
Mm-hmm. Great. So what's an opportunity or an obstacle that you faced in your business? I think we've already talked about one really being the big pivot, but past the big pivot, what's another opportunity or obstacle that you think other founders would benefit from hearing from you? Or you've had so much experience talking to other founders. Love to hear what you think.
So one thing that I've been reflecting back on is my my willingness to fire customers. Right? My willingness to fire customers that aren't adding to my to my energy. And the temptation, like I feel it every time. Like maybe they're, in fact, often it has been my highest paying customer
That's right.
where I'm getting most of my revenue, from them, but it's also costing me a disproportionate amount of energy. It's not a great fit. Like I can do the thing that they want done. They're happy with what I'm delivering for them, but it is excruciating, like pulling my mental and cognitive effort to do the thing that they want to do. And it's become easier. I've learned to say no. Like I appreciate the chance, I appreciate the opportunity, I appreciate what we've done, but this is no longer a good fit for me and what I want to do, and recognize that I can do that. And I know that there's going to be another better client that's on the other side. And by freeing up my cognitive bandwidth from that, it gives me the ability to focus on these bigger opportunities that now I've matured into, right? I wasn't ready for these bigger opportunities before, but now I am, and I can only do it if I am willing to say goodbye to some clients that no longer are a great fit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Firing a client is it's hard. It's not easy.
It is.
But it's also it can be so freeing. It free up your mental, your emotional, every type of energy, time, and all of a sudden you go, wow. I was part of a company years ago. 20% of our revenue came from one big client.
Mm-hmm.
CEO came to me and said, "Hey, Rod, you got to fire that client." What? And we did it. It was painful. That client went on to sell his business literally for $1.7 billion. Okay, so he benefited from our firing him. But guess what? So did we. And we went on and grew our business and became successful because we were no longer beholden to trying to do everything for this one client. And it worked out for both parties very well. So
I've never once regretted it.
Yeah.
Like I've often regretted holding on to somebody that I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't work with them or maybe I should go. But I've never once regretted, like, yeah, I'm glad that I don't have that on my plate to deal with. I would rather focus my time and attention and energy over here.
Absolutely. So I know we're coming towards the end of our time, but real quick, are there any final questions I should have asked you already, Dan?
So I would, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, right? Around seeking stories and hearing stories from people. And you talked about how sometimes it'll take you 2 or 3 questions to actually get down to it. This is something that I see all the time, that we have these stories that we live by. Stories, like oftentimes people will say, oh, the stories we tell ourselves. But I don't have to wake up every morning and have my list of stories to remind myself of. They are deeply embedded into my brain and the way that I think. But they're only stories. And I have the opportunity to change them. But what happens is we sort of build up these layers of stories. We have the stories that are going on in our own mind. We have the layer of story that we might tell our close friends and family. Then we have the layer of stories that we tell people in the world. But the good stuff is deeper. And if you're willing to go deeper, you're rewarded with connection and with understanding and with clarity. And if someone allows you to go deeper, you're rewarded with the same thing because you get to learn from their experience without having to suffer their pain.
Yeah.
People often will say that they don't want to tell their story because they don't want it to be all about them. But I say when you do share a story about those deeper things, it's not a trophy, it's a gift. You were giving someone else the gift of your experience.
That's right. It's something that I always believe that if we know someone, or let me rephrase that, the more someone knows that we care, it's more important than how much we know. So like when we work with our clients, if we get to know our clients on a very personal level and understand why they do what they do and all the rest, then they care how much we know. But first, how much do we care?
Absolutely.
Trust us. Yeah.
And you can serve them so much better by practicing like this deep applied empathy with your client. It also is what allows you to attract the next client as well, because you talk about their pains in a way that is so clear to them that you get it. Like Rod knows what I'm going through. And if he understands my pain so well, then maybe he also has the solution to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So, what resources would you suggest people should turn um, to build their business, to become a better founder, to become a better business person? What are some
Mm.
resources you've used and seen?
So there are lots of great communities out there with great mentors, people who are like you. I know you spend a lot of time mentoring founders as well. That finding mentors who are willing to spend that time one on one to have those conversations and help you to get kind of that personal clarity is the fastest way to level up.
Hmm.
And there's tons of places where those can be found. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always open to connect with people, and I regularly share out a link people can schedule with me. We'll just spend 30 minutes with whatever it is that they're facing, and people. I can only think of one founder I wasn't able to help in that 30-minute time because she was already crushing it, and she was
Hmm.
ready for someone else, not me.
Understood. Understood. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time today, Dan. I'd like to just let you know we're going to donate $100 to the Dick Logis Scholarship Fund. It's going to help a kid go to a military community family's kid go to either university or to trade school, whichever he or she chooses. And I always appreciate our time together. I learned so much from you. Thanks so much for being part of this
Thank you.
conversation today. Really always learn a lot from talking with you.
Thanks so much. I really
So,
appreciate the
absolutely.
opportunity.
Thanks for joining us on the MilCom Founders Podcast. If you know a MilCom founder with a story to share, reach out to us at milcomfounders.com. For each guest on our show, One Degree Financial donates $100 to the Dick Logis Veteran Entrepreneur Scholarship Fund, supporting education for children of a MilCom business owner. Stay ready.